Welcome to What the Theory with Joel. I'm Joel, and today I'm with
Alan.
So Alan is now an official part of the show. We had your comments about him saying things from behind the scenes that they couldn't hear, and apparently he has something sensible to say. So do you have anything sensible to say to the people today? How was your day? Today's episode is going to be on technology. It's about techno-optimism, to be specific, and I want to compare and contrast it with another line of thought in technology, which is techno-accelerationism. So we'll talk about techno-optimism and then accelerationism. At some point, I'll ask, Alan is the king of technology, so he'll be able to tell me if I'm wrong-footed or not. But I was online a few weeks ago, and then I came up with, it's in the comments, in the description, the Techno-Optimist Manifesto. This is by Marc Andreessen of Andreessen Howritz. These are venture capitalists, and his company has invested quite a bit in so many companies in Silicon Valley. He was at the forefront of Web 3.0, that's crypto and all its cousins. And this is his manifesto talking about, the optimism that we need to have in technology because it's going to lead us somewhere. And as I was going through it, there's a bit here which is quite interesting. Let me read this for you. We are being lied to. We are told that technology takes our jobs, reduces our wages, increases inequality, and threatens our health. We are told to be angry, bitter, and resentful about technology. We're told to be pessimistic. But the myth of Prometheus in various updated forms haunts our nightmares. We are told to denounce our birthright, our intelligence, our control over nature, and our ability to build a new world. We're told to be miserable about the future. And the next section goes, our civilization was built on technology. Our civilization is built on technology. Technology is the glory of human ambition, achievement, the spearhead of progress, and the realization of our potential. For hundreds of years, we properly glorified this until recently, and I'm here to bring you good news. We can advance to a far superior way of living and of being. We have the tools, we have the systems, the ideas, we have the will. It is time once again to raise the technology flag. It is time to be techno-optimists. Now, what do you think about that statement? It's not a trick question,
I don't know. I'm not a technology optimist. I'm not a big fan of where it's going.
Hey.
So anyone raising a flag and writing a whole speech as if you're attacking Poland, I'm not sure.
You sound like my dad. When I told my dad I was going on a work retreat, he said, the word retreat, why are you using it like you're in the battle lines, man? You're just doing financial services, relax. And you kind of make me go, yeah, why do we use that language? We make it sound like it's so dramatic. Anyway, I was reading that and I thought about what techno-optimism is, which is basically what he spoke about. The thought is that technology is the thing that liquefies most of the problems that we have in life. If you've got a health issue, obviously there's going to be innovation and technology that's going to help you get better drugs, better therapy, whatever the case may be. You need to get the right machines that will fix you. And he seems to be speaking about the fact that technology is now seen as a scary thing. It's going to take our jobs, it's going to cause problems, and we should instead think about it as technology is what built civilization, and it has been the case from the beginning of time until now. It reminded me of a guy called Kevin Kelly, who used to write for Wired magazine, and he had a book where he spoke about, he created a through line from the Big Bang all the way to the iPhone. He said that it was all leading inevitably to this. And as someone who's worked in this space for a while, I think it's the predominant marketing label. We're sort of saying that, when you get technology, things will fix everything. And I think that would be bared out in three phrases, right? In three common terms. Innovation, entrepreneurship, and disruption. Like those three terms, I hear them quite a bit in the technology piece. So I want to, maybe break those down and tell you why I have problems with them, and then take you to technology accelerationism. So on the techno-optimist side, like he was saying, the idea is that all these technologies that we've built our civilization on have been leading us inevitably towards what is our birthright. He says our intelligence, our control over nature, and our ability to build a better world are with us. Now, Coincidentally, I agree with that statement, but I disagree with it being just something in technology. One thing I've noticed is in modern life, anything is possible when it comes to technology and creation. You know, we can create artificial intelligence, we can go to Mars, we can do all kinds of things. But try and raise taxes on the rich, and it's impossible. Or maybe let's have a different system of government. It's not possible. I feel like the creativity, the hunger that we have to do creative things and to engage as human beings has been channeled into one space, and it's been called technology. And the other is when he was, sort of speaking about the tools and the systems and ideas that we have to build, he's making it seem like only now have we started to criticize technology. But from the beginning of recorded history, there's been criticisms. One, Plato was against writing as a form of technology, which is weird because his thought was, if I have a point to make, that the point being made is myself plus the things I'm saying. So I should be present so that my argument can be broken down, and that's why dialectical discussions were the thing. But if you write something down, it loses all context and can be recontextualized and used as something else. Yeah, it can be screenshotted and used anywhere else. He was foreseeing the memes. So there's been a lot of criticism. The other is, I remember when I was studying in geography, how mining and the gold rush in the US was sold. So at the time when gold was discovered far out west in the US, the thought was, come to America, you're going to go to the new frontiers, you dig up gold and you become wealthy, and you be the paragon of new civilization. But what was being hidden was the actual cost of you having to do that kind of panhandling. You'd have to use a lot of human labor. You'd spend hours looking through riverbeds, trying to find all kinds of secret tunnels or secret stashes where you could find gold, because most of the gold had already been found. But there was a lot of room to sell people the idea that they could become entrepreneurs of the self. So I disagree with the techno-optimist view because it's fetishizing technology. And I think when I use the word fetish, people always think of something sexual. But I'm using the word fetish in its original meaning, which is when you give an inanimate object more powers than it actually has, more than you can actually find with the thing itself. It was used to talk about people who had like idols or artifacts or totems that were said to have magical powers. So in a way, the way we speak about it as if technology is this force that moves above us, that is directing the hands of those people who dare to ply their trade in it and is going to lead us to greatness, it removes the very social realities of how technology is made. Like, when the iPhone is announced, it looks like Prometheus came from heaven with fire and gave it to us and said, here's the technology. But behind it is the people who've been working, who've been listening to the comments that we've had, who have to get a certain sales amount in order for them to make it hit. But the experience is we just see Apple is creating a certain form of technology. What we don't see behind there is all the stuff that is really not that pleasant that goes into creating an iPhone. So that leads me to the first item of those three words I wanted to talk about when it comes to techno-optimism, which is innovation. So innovation for itself is sort of seen as self-reinforcing. You ask someone who's an innovator, what should we do? We need to innovate that process. And just because something is new or changed, we sort of think that because it's new, it's going to be better, or it's going to, make it faster, make it more glorious. And I feel like we're selling ourselves short. I mean, mustard gas was an innovation in war, but it's been banned because it was too effective. It was just killing so many people. Think about, those of you who watched Oppenheimer. Just because something can be done doesn't mean that it should be. This is the part where you insert that thing from, Jurassic Park. Your scientists were too busy saying that they can and they didn't ask whether they should. Copyright kept. Yeah, but I feel like that's the issue. We sort of leave it to the people who know how to innovate. And as long as we mask innovation as always good, as always leading towards something great, the people who are working on those things can cause all kinds of problems. I mean, that's how I think social media got to be where it was. It's just a social networking site But then you see that they're involved in rigging elections. They've got, I think Facebook has been now dealing with the issue of child pornography. It's been dealing with all kinds of abuse, beheading videos, all kinds of things being shown there to minors. Those are people who are minor in age, not minors. I was talking about minors before. So I don't want to, when you're doing the thing, when you're doing the transcription. I shouldn't be looking at Alan when I'm doing these things. So I feel like on the innovation side, it's obfuscating what actually is happening, in that the changes could be good or bad. They reorder how we do things. And for the most part, the order maintains the current status quo. Like the company is still in control of all the things that they produce. They retain the IP, they retain the licensing, and maybe we get some ancillary benefits, but we never get to see if that is something that could be in the public domain. I always talk about a lot of the things on the smartphone were not developed by private companies alone. They were developed with the public sector funding. And with that public sector funding, you get things like GPS, you get like the sensors on the phone, you got the touch screen. But what the revolution was from the tech companies is they were able to bundle it and distribute it at a fairly good price. But the technology itself is not something that you can have proprietary ownership over. But when you combine them, this is a proprietary thing, meaning someone had an idea, put this together, and if you try and create the same thing, you can't compete because somehow by magic they own the idea. So intellectual property, I think, is also at odds with the idea of innovation, because if it was truly innovation, during the the height of the COVID pandemic, when we wanted to make our own generic drugs, I mean, intellectual property came in. So it was not a question of innovation or the capability to do the work. It was who has the legal rights to do something. And that's often masked under techno-optimism. The other one is entrepreneurship. Now, I have been subject to this myself. At some point I live by the term, I go by 996. I'm working from 9 to 9, 6 days a week. And that's the bare minimum to be successful. That was my mantra. I used to wake up and drink coffee and start grinding. And be on the grind, not start grinding. Yeah, but I remember distinctly when Uber came around, it was selling itself as creating jobs and giving people the right to be entrepreneurs of the self. That you could get to choose your hours, you don't have a boss over you telling you what to do, and it's going to be disruptive. But I know like 2 people who got onto Uber, and the benefits have considerably dropped, and also the hours that you have to ride in order for you to be able to get your benefits or to get your full package. You probably have to start driving in the evenings or at night to make up for the hours that you lost during the day. Then there are peak seasons, and most of all, it disrupted what was already happening, which is the third thing I want to talk about: disruption. Often we talk about disruption without mentioning what it's disrupting. It may disrupt something that was actually useful. Say the taxi business. I know in New York, one of the reasons they didn't want Uber to come in was they had set up a medallion system where you'd have to pay to get a medallion for you to ride a certain taxi route, for you to own it. But it also came with you having to have insurance, making sure that the car has been checked. Like there were safety measures that made it a little bit more expensive, but ensured safety for the people that were taking that ride. But now with Uber, you're a contractor. So you don't really, you have to get that insurance of your own money. You have to find ways to repair your car. You're not getting the benefits of a structured system. So disrupting taxis, yes, but the disruption led to people having to do work where there used to be people hired and employed to do that work. So you're doing it in your own spare time, turning your car into an asset, but turning yourself also into an extra worker. And then you're also disrupting the safety that people used to have. So at a certain point, I think Uber was talking about how can we create Uber for cities where you can do public transportation. So you disrupt something and then want to take over it. So at least from where I stand, I think the concepts of innovation, entrepreneurship, and disruption have been sold a little too highly, particularly in Uganda. I think the guys who recently left Makerere University, I think according to UBOS, only about half of them are projected to get jobs within the next 2 years. The rest are going to be on the street for like 3, 4, 5 years. And everyone was giving the advice of, you need to get more skills, you need to find some side, become an entrepreneur, become a job creator, not a job taker. I'm like, first of all, the people who are telling you this have not created jobs, so why are they happy? Then two, if entrepreneurship is so great, why aren't we who are in jobs quitting so that we become entrepreneurs and then those guys come and take those jobs? I feel like it's a nice way for us to show that the system is not functioning as it's supposed to, but then put the locus on you. We put the blame on you. So like when AI is coming to take jobs, you're like, man, they're taking jobs, you better go and study and find a way to replace yourself. Instead of thinking, but if these AI tools are for all of us, why do I have to work more? Why can't they augment what I'm already doing? The conversation has to go beyond the technological bounds. And
it's like the push to start.
You don't like push to start?
You still have to have a key fob.
Yeah, but so you can go.
No, but like if they can take the whole thing, I have to go away. But it's like push. Then you must have the fob. You must not leave the fob in the car. You must. It's like disrupt is something that was already working, and it didn't really solve.
Do you know the thing I don't get? I understand why it's there, but the multi-factor authentication every single time of now we've sent a code. I have so many codes. I don't can't I? It's me. Especially for things like, I saw this TikTok where this guy's talking about it's only for my bank. Who is logging in to pay my Netflix bill? Obviously it's me. It's me. It's no one else. Yeah. So let me give you some quotes just before I move on to the next thing. From innovation, there've obviously been people who've been critical of it. There've been people who've been, in praise of it. So on the praise side, when it comes to innovation, you have guys like Karl Popper who said something like, the aim of science is not to find absolute truth, but to improve our understanding of the world through constant critical discussion and innovation. Or John Dewey, who was talking about innovation is not just about inventing new things, but about using them to improve the quality of human life. But like I've mentioned, I would use Hannah Arendt's quote here about modern technology has placed efficiency above all other human ends and values. So even when we talk about the creation of technology, the will according to what it is they want to replace. So many places want to get rid of call centers now because it's so expensive for you to have that head count and have people talking to other human beings when they have an issue. Like they'll put an AI chatbot or put an automated calling machine. One, it's not really working that well because most of the time it just means outsource that thing to someone in a country where we can afford the costs. And two, the experience for the customer isn't that great. If you've tried to interact with Umeme, I've been trying to get a hold of them for a while. You can't, you try their toll-free lines, you can't get through. But then you try and chat, they'll give you that chat box. And it's so annoying because it's the same steps over and over. You need to take 12 steps to get to what you want to get to. And even then it connects you to a human being. So you go through all of that. And then when you meet the human being, the guy asks you the same questions. You're like, what the? Anyway, I just think it's a terrible idea for us to have, for us to not see behind the scenes of how these brands are created. Now, I'm going to talk to you about a guy called Nick Land. So Nick Land is a British philosopher who was considered the father of accelerationism. Now, his work was more looking at what the Techno Optimists were saying, which is, again, the innovation, the disruption, the entrepreneurship that comes from the use of technology within the current system, which is capitalism, will allow for people to get more and more returns, become more productive, and then get a slice of the pie. Nick Land saw all that, but instead had three principles that made him an accelerationist. So his view is that technology is going to accelerate at such a rapid rate that it's going to change the social relations that already exist, that the mere fact of having certain types of technology is going to transform how we are. So the first is that capitalism is a self-reinforcing system that will inevitably lead to its own intensification and acceleration. That has happened all the way through. So when he talks about accelerationism, he's referring to the fact that capitalism as a system always deterritorializes and makes commodities out of things that previously were not. Now, if you want to see the funniest commodity that capitalism has ever made, just go to LinkedIn and see everyone there commodifying themselves as a brand. Excited to have worked on this workshop today, and I'm the greatest. And then you go and see their Twitter. I was about to call it X, and I swear I shall never. I will never call it that. So his thought is that it outlasts all of us. And similar to Mark Fisher, that we cannot imagine a world where capitalism isn't the case. If you think about futuristic movies, if you think about futuristic novels, often there is something that happened that destroyed the rate of change, and then suddenly people, picked themselves up and said, no, we should have a more humane system. I think COVID showed us that that probably won't happen. Like, there was a general world pandemic and we still went back to the way things are. Then the other is like some magical tech or some magical resource is going to be discovered. Think of Wakanda, where they, were able to say, oh man, this meteor fell, and so we're able to utilize it and we can get flowers. It's so malleable that you can make tech. It's like a magical thing comes in place, because we cannot envision creating a structure that will allow for more equitable distribution. Capitalism is great and revolutionary in terms of production, but the problem is distribution. The distribution is always quite uneven, and that's because of the way property rights are set up. The second thing that he will talk about in terms of the fact that capitalism is self-reinforcing, and therefore all we can do is accelerate its motion to eradicate what's going on here and make us almost atomized, inhuman guys, sort of connected to a world wide web. Imagine like that Vision Pro, all of us are tapped in and you really don't need to talk to anyone. You can just, send them information at will. His view is that humanity is not a fixed or natural category, but rather a product of historical and cultural forces, which I agree with. As capitalism accelerates, these forces will break down, leading to the emergence of new and inhuman forms of being. So right now, information technology is leading everything. Now the question is, if we have enough information, can we augment ourselves to become stronger, more superior, genetically advanced? He's sort of saying that right now, those old barriers from where we came from, that human life is sacred, you're not allowed to play with anything. He's like, man, to hell with all that noise, let's accelerate because it's going to happen anyway. And then the last one is we shouldn't resist the process of acceleration, but rather embrace it and try to surf its waves. Otherwise, we are just delaying the inevitable. And his sort of philosophy comes together in something called anarcho-capitalism. So anarcho-capitalism is opposition to government, that there shouldn't be a centralized authority, but that human beings are free to be able to judge for themselves and have free association. And that free association comes with, if I'm able to mix my labor with something, I will then own it. So the world he's dreaming of right now is one which is anti-human, because it's not as we are now. That means we have to change. It's one in which the superiority of the individual comes before any collective group, meaning that I have the right to whatever it is I lay my hands upon, and if I have might and strength, I am able to resist you, and that the state is coming in as an illegitimate partner to try and break up whatever is going on between the two of us. His view is that the state is coming in to prevent what would naturally have been happening. It's like nature has no democracy. Nature is about red in tooth and claw. So his view is that let's accelerate that so that we can get to a point where we're no longer having these debates, because if we keep having these debates about optimism versus techno pessimism, it's missing the point. Inevitably it's going to happen, whether we want it or not. The individual members who are even working within the system may not want those ends. Like, you may see people who work at Facebook and the rest might not be utilizing the very products they put out, but inevitably it becomes the universal standard for everyone to work on. So his view is, let's just push it all the way to its maximum and get it to where it's supposed to. And the last thing I'll say about that is that his view is driven by his idea that capitalism is an unrelenting engine. Let me read this for you from The Thirst of Annihilation. The history of capitalism is not a narrative of progress towards a preordained utopia, but rather a process of immanent intensification, a relentless amplification of its own internal dynamics. Each crisis, each contradiction breeds a new form of control, a new form of exploitation and abstraction. From the enclosures of the commons to the rise of digital finance, capitalism constantly invents mechanisms to overcome its limits and propel itself forward. So his view is that it is the most innovative, most disruptive force. And if we think that what the optimists are saying, he's taking it all the way up to 11. Did you guys watch, what's that thing? Turn it up to 11. Crap, I've forgotten the name of the show. Anyway, there are too many shows in my head. He's cranked it all the way up to 11. If you can imagine on a system that goes to 10, he's taken it all the way to 11. He's off the charts. And to me, if you believe in optimism, at some point you have to wrestle with what Nick Land is saying, because if innovation in and of itself is promising, if technology is what builds civilization, then perhaps we should allow technology to take us where it's going. After all, if we've made it a reified thing that no one has control over, you might as well inevitably allow it to happen. That's the conclusion I have with techno-optimism. That's why I'm anti this techno-optimist manifesto. I think anything that is created by human beings should be critiqued, should be examined. We should always look at the material basis behind it, and always ask yourself how, when you see an iPhone, you're not thinking about the sweatshop workers in China that are building it. You're not thinking about the materials that have to be obtained out of Africa, out of the Congo. And yet that is not an exception to the capitalist world order. It is baked in, it is part of it, but it's obscured. You don't see how it's created because of these flashy things. And I think the discussion that we're having, while encouraging, and I myself believe in the potential of technological systems that order and alter the way we live, I think talking about them as if it is outside of our control, as if it is something that is inevitable, and then there are some high priests that come and determine it for us and tell us this is the way AI will go, or this is the way technology is going to be driven, robs us of our own right to be able to determine the kinds of tools that we want to utilize and the world that we want to develop. Yeah, that's my thought. What do you think of accelerationism? Are you going to sign up, Alan? Let's push it.
Push it to the maximum.
I mean, you have a PS5, why? Isn't a PS4, okay? Just accelerating things.
I saw this coming. But you see, like, I really wanted to get it. When I did, now my eyes are used to it. I don't really see a difference. I mean, unless I power yourself.
Then you start seeing the light, you're like, oh, how is this guy living like this?
Graphics and stuff. I feel like it's anything you feel like you really, really want, when you get it, you get used to it. And yeah. Like even now, Vision Pros, people who have them are like, okay, it's here, it's cool. But what I believe is about nature always like resetting itself. Like every time I know we push ourselves, we get to a peak, we'll come crashing down. Just like my back.
My goodness. Okay, well, Alan has said it, so I guess we are voting no to techno-optimism and accelerationism. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of the people in my circles say that I sound quite negative. I think it's because we are excessively positive, and because of that, any commentary is going to be negative. Believe me, look at the machines I have. I love tech, but let's not treat it like it's a rarefied object. All right, so thank you for watching. Please send in your comments, thoughts, all the rest. The next episode is going to be the last one in the technology series, and it's going to be a discussion of actually what Alan just talked about, our desires, the desires in the machine, and how the machine is mining our desires. So watch out for that. Thank you.